Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with avant-garde jazz pianist Satoko Fuji. She grew up in Japan, then moved to the USA to study at the Berklee College of Music and the New England Conservatory. These days, she is back in Japan and has plenty to say about her music and her life. During the course of an interview with Neon Jazz, she talked about a great deal of topics and a very intriguing journey. Please dig this interview, my friends. Let me go ahead and dive right in here and ask you what has been going on lately.
Well, I'm in Japan now, and I had several concerts here in Tokyo and other city in Japan, and now I'm just relaxed with my family.
Who are you performing with these days, and kind of talk to me a little bit about that?
Okay, well, so let's start with other project at first, because, I have been playing, with a lot of different people, and one of the very active project is with two French players, musicians, and with Natsuki, the band called Kaze. Yeah, and the instrumentation is very unique. Two trumpets. Me play piano and drama. So two trumpets, one piano and one drums. And we play, this is not my project. It's more like everyone's, very democratic project. So all we write music and all we make music together. So that's one of the projects that I'm doing, actively. And the next one is called Tobira, which is not trio. It's more like it's quartet, but it has been developed from my new trio, which is piano, bass, and drums. And we made one CD called Spring Storm 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the bass player is an American guy who had been living in Japan, but he moved back to New York City. His name is Todd Nicholson. And the drummer is Japanese guy whose name is Takashi Itani. And we made one CD called Spring Storm, and the band is called Satako Fuji New Trio. But I developed the band with having Natsuki Tamura on trumpet, and now the band has 4 people instead of trio.
Very cool. Let me go back a little bit earlier in your life. You grow up in Japan, and I know that Japan has a really deep appreciation for jazz. So talk to me about how you developed your love of jazz.
Okay, well, people love jazz in Japan, as you said, but mostly people love mainstream, straight ahead jazz. It's more like 60s or even 50s. And the music I play is a little different from that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually, I have many stories in Japan. Sometimes I play in some jazz club in Tokyo, and some people who love jazz come to the show and said, some of them are disappointed because I don't play straight ahead jazz.
Yeah.
And they say, they think, it's not jazz. But I don't know, I don't know I play jazz or not. I have no idea. So, yeah. So, but anyway, at first I started studying classical music, which was very popular thing. When I was small, all family, try to make their, especially daughters, practice classical piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nowadays people finally realized it's not so important. or there are many other things to do. So it's not common thing anymore. But when I was little, that was very common thing for Japanese family. And I also studied classical piano. But the reason I started studying classical piano is not just because of that. I was very shy child. I couldn't talk to other kids, and I was not happy being in kindergarten. So I asked my parents that if I can quit kindergarten, and my parents thought it's maybe a good idea to let me to do something else, so I can have some social thing instead of just staying in my parents' house. So instead of going kindergarten, I started going piano lessons.
Yeah.
And that's how I started playing piano.
Interesting.
Yes.
The interesting thing, too, that I always hear about jazz pianists is that everything starts in the classical realm. It's like all the building blocks get accumulated at that point, and then you kind of branch out into jazz. So my question is, do you think the classical training has led very well to you understanding jazz better?
Well, it's very difficult to explain because, there are two things. One thing is, because I already had, technique to play piano, that actually helped me to play jazz. That I cannot say no about that. But the second thing is because I was well trained to read music, not to improvise. That actually bothered me a lot when I started playing jazz, because jazz has a lot of improvisation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two, opposite things.
Absolutely. So when you were growing up, did you dream about being a musician, or did you have other aspirations for your life?
Well, I was not good classical piano student. I was not good jazz piano student either. But with some reason, I had been dreaming being musician in whole life. Even when I started playing piano when I was 4 years old, I already was dreaming being musician.
Wonderful. So why did you pick this route of creating kind of a free avant-garde jazz sound? How did that develop? Did you feel like you wanted to do something different, or was it something that evolved over time?
Well, actually, that's also my question. Why I picked this thing? Yeah, but I have been. I noticed several things why I picked it up. Like there are several people who love kind of conservative things, and there are other people who love very avant-garde things, and that's not just education. It's more like constitution, I think.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I started listening to jazz. Well, that's because my classical piano teacher loved jazz, and I really respected him. So that's why I started being interested in jazz, and I tried to listen to jazz with FM station, because I didn't know which jazz I should listen to.
Yeah.
Then I didn't like anything like or hard bop or kind of like traditional jazz stuff. But one day I listened to I had Coltrane played "I Love Supreme" from the radio, and with I don't know why, but I loved it. Immediately, I knew that it. So my case, I just love kind of like jazz instead of I listening to hard bop or pop, then going to free jazz. That I just loved free jazz at first.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So you come to the United States to the Berklee College of Music in Boston. Talk to me a little bit about that transition in your life from the Japanese culture into the American culture and what you learned when you went to kind of one of the top music schools in the country.
Well, I was young already. I was 20 years old, and when my there much younger than me. And well, so, but I don't know. In America, it's very equal. How it's very different. Japan, I mean, culturally. But anyway, it was very pleased how because in Japan we were expected to do, because I have to say I was very, I mean, to say anything in America. In Japan, I was all thinking about, people think about me or people look at me, that kind of stuff. But in America, it's more, I mean, I could relax much better.
So after your time at Berklee and as you started kind of getting into music more, you started playing more around the world. What was that experience like to not only play in the learn in the United States and play here, but to kind of go around the world? What have those experiences been like for you?
Well, I mean, after Berklee, actually, I only played in Japan. Yeah,
Okay.
and I spent 5 years being in Japan, playing in Japan. Then I decided to went back to America to study in New England Conservatory.
Yeah.
So I went to New England Conservatory. Then that was experience for me. I mean, Berklee, it's more like just studying jazz as style. I mean, like I'm trying to music shaped like jazz or sounds like jazz, and imitate someone, something like that. But I had to say I was not so happy being in there because I was not good at doing that. And I went back to Japan, spending 5 years as a professional musician, and I just lost my, I mean, feeling playing jazz. I mean, playing music. What is my music? That kind of stuff. And I decided went back to back to America, studying in New England Conservatory. Then I studied with Paul Bley, George Russell, John Maneri, and many other great musicians. And I realized there are some music which I can play, not other people. That's my music. I just realized that, and so I had to say it's very different. I mean, Berklee and New England Conservatory is like 10 minutes walk. I mean, both are in Boston and 10 minutes walk distance.
Yeah.
But the idea is very different. In Berklee, the school tried to make jazz musician, and I mean in New England Conservatory, I mean we have to play our music. We have to find ourselves. It's more like that.
Interesting. That's a great way of putting it. Everybody has something they're trying to say with their music. What is your message? What are you trying to say with your music?
Um, I think music is special language, which actually is very different. Different from like English or Japanese or whatever we are talking, and this kind of language. This kind of language, we can talk about politics. We can talk about something like what's happened today, or many things which is kind of like details. But music is different, totally different language, which we can talk more about very deep feeling, which is different from like politics or society or whatever. It's more like, I think, feeling or love, or I don't know. But music obviously can talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there are several things, of course. Many things that music cannot talk about. And the thing that I would like to express with music is obviously the thing that I cannot talk in Japanese or in English or whatever. I would like to express something that I only can express with music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think which is very deep. I don't know what it is, but under something. Not just talking about the thing that we can look. Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly the universal language, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
When you look back on your career and the periods of creativity that you've had, when do you think you've been the most creative in your career, in your life?
It's. I'm doing new things all the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult to say, because even before I started playing this kind of music, I think I was creative somehow. Doing different things. So it's very difficult to say when is the period that I did many things. I think I have been doing many things in different way.
Yeah.
And so if you say how many CDs or how many projects, or that kind of numbers, of course I can see my discography to say which period. But I think it's different, because even I don't make any CDs. I composed or rehearsed, so it's also, I think, very creative somehow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you, who do you admire the most in the world of jazz? Who do you look up to?
Well, if you just talk about jazz, because I love other kind of music too. But if you just say jazz, I have to say I love most musicians. But I love John Coltrane, as I said, and I love Bill Evans, and for a long time I was everybody said I probably got influence from Cecil Taylor, but to tell the truth, I was not so crazy with his music until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very recently I realized Cecil Taylor, played very, unique and deep, and I started loving his music a lot recently. So it's very difficult to say who I love. I love most musicians. I told you I couldn't have fun listening to bebop when I was young. But now I like Charlie Parker. I like, many musicians. So it's very difficult to say. But, of course, I got big influence from my teacher, who is Paul Bley. And even before I studied with him, he was one of my idols. And so it's very difficult question because I love so many musicians.
No, that's cool. That's a great direction there. It's kind of a dream realized kind of thing to be able to play with someone you admire that much, like Paul. So let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and witness a jazz musician play live, and you could go in any time period back in time, would it be Coltrane? Who would you want to see live?
Well, definitely Coltrane.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I didn't have chance to see him.
Yeah.
And,
That's cool. Why do you love jazz?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, as I told you, I love many different kind of music. I love like classical music, music, and some ethno music, and I don't know, but I of course love jazz very deeply. But I don't know why. I just feel I like it. I mean, when I listen to it, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Let me ask you this. We know who you are from your music. Your family knows who you are. Your fans have an idea of who you are. Tell me, who are you?
Well, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Japanese woman, but that's not the first thing. I'm just a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I can tell.
So let me ask you this. Let's say we get together and interview in 10 years, and the first question I'm going to ask you is, what has been going on lately? What are you going to want to tell me happened 10 years from now?
I would like to make music that I didn't make so far.
Cool.
I mean, somehow, many times good, that's probably is good thing that, people can recognize my music, because I do have my way to structure the music, the notes, and I have my taste, which people can recognize.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would like to see my new thing. I mean, I think I do have something else. And I would like to play music that I've never heard before. I mean, I would like to find myself.
That's a perfect way to end this interview, and that's, I think, what epitomizes you, is that you create this music that we've never heard before. I really, really dig the avant-garde realm. I really dig your music, so it's been a joy to have you spend a little time with me and kind of talk about you and your music. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Talk to you, in 10 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In a decade, we'll talk.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over America, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Satoko for her time and new blend of jazz she is constantly giving the world. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store or visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com for all things Neon Jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.